Human trafficking routes have been frozen. That means drug trafficking and human trafficking routes are being frozen. Opioid prices are starting to spike. That means there is a supply problem, which means we will have a bunch of addicts going through withdrawal and will be flooding the hospitals within the next month. If you've been paying attention, the media has been wrong. They've been constantly wrong. They always say the opposite of Trump. They always try to hem him up with what they want to be true. But Trump has been right, constantly right. Intel, privy, clearance, whatever you want to call it, understanding, D-class, truth. The media has been wrong. If you have been paying attention, they will say every time, Mr. President, that's wrong. There's just absolutely no proof. And then, poof, the proof appears. Trump's vindicated. Right every time. Do your research. This is a collection of intel drops from many different sources. Pay attention and let's get into it. Were essential staff ordered by the Pentagon to deep underground mountain bunker? Okay, so as we see here on the screen, the Washington Standard, essential staff ordered by the Pentagon to deep underground mountain bunker. Tim Brown reports on March 30th, 2020. Got a picture of a soldier here out in front of the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. The lies about the coronavirus continue. Something else is going on. It has nothing to do with the coronavirus and has nothing to do with Q. In fact, it may have to do with a greater threat, one that God promised and we got ads, rebellious people. So, again, this is just an article. We don't have to play into all the... So how reports are that the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, and the U.S. Northern Command, NORTHCOM, held a Facebook Live town hall recording on Tuesday, March 24th, I can confirm that, informing the public how their essential teams in charge of Homeland Security are isolating at Cheyenne Mountain Bunker in Colorado amid the COVID-19 pandemic. This all comes on the heels of Trump calling up 1 million reserves. So here we go. Zero Hedge has that report on all this. So Air Force General Terrence Shaughnessy, who commands NORAD NORTHCOM, told reporters on Facebook Live last Tuesday that the essential staff is being moved from Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado to the underground bunker complex that is 24 miles away in the Cheyenne Mountain. The facility is more than 2,000 feet underground and can survive a 30 megaton nuclear explosion. To ensure that we defend the homeland despite the pandemic, our command and control watch teams here at the headquarters split into multiple shifts, and portions of our watch team began working from the Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station, creating a third team at an alternative location as well. So our dedicated professionals of NORAD NORTHCOM Command Watch have left their homes, say goodbye to their families, and are isolated from everyone to ensure they can stand the watch and every day to defend our homeland. It's certainly not optimal, but it's absolutely necessary and appropriate given the situation. So it seems like a little bit of survival, continuity of government type protocols. Who knows? You guys can read this full article. I'll leave the link down below. And this does take me back to a live phone call that we took from a Patriot from the channel that watches and called in from this area a couple of months ago and was talking about the ramp up, all the activity. She was talking about she lived in this area between these multiple bases in the area and the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. I'm calling on all of you Patriots to go back and find that live show. It would be during a live show a couple of months ago. Woodman was on, possibly. I'm not sure who else. But if you find that phone call, that episode, get a hold of me, email me, send me to the appropriate link, give me the time on it so I can just get there and check that out. That'd be very interesting. Moving on. Are you awake yet? Meghan and Harry leave the royal family. They were trying to get Harry was trying to get the U.S. government to actually pay for his security detail. And Trump tweeted this. I am a great friend and admirer of Queen and the United Kingdom. It was reported that Harry and Meghan, who left the kingdom, would reside permanently in Canada. Now they have left Canada for the U.S. However, the U.S. will not pay for their security protection. They must pay. Grabbing some of this, I saw this just from a little bit ago. With interest rates for the United States being at zero, this is the time to do our decade-long awaited infrastructure bill. It should be very big and bold, $2 trillion, and be focused solely on jobs and rebuilding the once great infrastructure of our country. Phase 4. Hanks is back in LA for having contracted the very deadliest COVID. Nobody seemed alarmed to be around him without any mask, and just things were as peachy as can be. Exact outfit after the quarantine and everything. All those days later between that first post and then when he arrives back. Interesting. Now, are you awake yet? We go over Meghan and Harry. They leave the royal family. Prince Andrew is convicted pedophile and was close with Jeffrey Epstein. Research Epstein Island if you have a strong enough stomach. WikiLeaks has exposed Clinton and the crime family. She deletes over 350,000 emails. Trump gets elected. Harvey Weinstein, Hollywood's biggest germ, was arrested 3 weeks ago, and all of a sudden, he got the virus. Prince Charles and now the Queen have the virus. The Queen fled the palace to isolate weeks ago. Breaking news, Chris Cuomo just got the virus. Prince Charles and now the Queen have the virus. The Queen fled the palace to isolate weeks ago. All of your Hollywood favorites have the virus. More to come. Adrenochrome is your topic here. Bill Gates is pushing vaccines. He owns 15% of the WHO, which are owned by the George Soros and the Rockefellers. Don't know them? Do a little bit of research. Why? Well, Google has been opened and is currently uncensored, and you can have access to all of this information. It is free flowing. You're welcome. Whilst you are there, Google adrenochrome and start to follow the trail. An adrenochrome batch was made in Wuhan. How fitting. U.S. deployed 30,000 troops to Europe. Oh yeah, it's for training, without mask or any kind of hand sanitizer. 600 Mexican drug cartels were arrested, one of the biggest busts in U.S. history. Why didn't we hear about that? 298 Saudi royals, lawyers, and judges were arrested for corruption. 3 Chinese, including 1 Harvard professor, were arrested by the U.S. attorney for economic espionage just about 5 weeks ago. We're going to see Trump has crashed the Fed. They brought all the gold and they hold the keys to creating a gold-backed currency, removing our fiat currency. There is no Fed banking anymore, privately owned. The Fed and Treasury were basically merged, meaning that Trump is now the chairman for the global banking system with the people's money. Not the Rothschilds, Rockefeller, Soros, Goldman Sachs, and the list goes on and on. What comes out in the next several days on all the final details will be huge. For this to be possible, the economy must be crashed. All corrupt coin needs to be drained. A 14 through 28 day lockdown is the best scenario, the best way, the best plan to do this. And even better, to distribute the money to the people on government grants, paying out refunds for businesses, and ATO offsets. Believe what you want, but open your eyes beyond the virus. Some of the world's most powerful CEOs have stepped down over the last several years, and more than ever right before this orchestrated event. This was a crash right in front of you. Multiple arrests have been made for child trafficking, human trafficking, and sex abuse. But the media is not telling you any of that. What you are seeing is a war, an invisible war that Trump keeps talking about. It is a war between Trump and these SS agents of the elites, the bankers, and the mainstream media lies. Pay attention to the bigger picture. Trump has arrested and caught more pedophile and child trafficking rings in the world. He set up executive orders purposely to take the money back of anybody caught up in this crimes against humanity. But I bet you didn't know that, because the mainstream George Soros owned, funded, and operated global elite make out that he's just a complete moron. Trump will go down in history in the coming weeks. He will go down in history. There is no need to panic or have fear. This whole thing is working out as it needs to for Trump and his team to remove the corruption that has existed for millennia, and the power that has taxed your hard-earned dollar, loaded your loans and credits with interest, and pulled the wool over your eyes for centuries. You're going to see some big names get called out to the point where you won't want to believe it. If you still believe that 9/11 was a terrorist attack for Osama bin Laden, who trained donkeys to fly Cessnas, which then magically upskilled into Boeings and flew aluminum planes into heavy reinforced steel towers that collapsed like a deck of cards, not to mention Tower 7, which was a block away but folded. No planes, no gas, no melting of steel on Building 7. Let's not forget the 6 SEALs who took Osama down that were killed in a mysterious chopper crash. RIP, fellas. You are in for a wake-up call. This week, the big banks will go down. They will be bankrupt. They are already on their knees. Income tax will go away, and the elites will no longer rule your world. Happy Easter, everybody. Follow the white Easter bunny on 4/10/20. We'll be back at full operation at the end of April. Mark my words.